Testing. 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 So, as you can see from the title is Cassie is being sued. And throughout this whole trial, everybody wanted to play Cassie like she was the victim, but she was out here hiring sex workers. She was doing anything she could do to be with Diddy. And we gonna start hearing from these sex workers. Let's start watching some videos and see what the sex workers are saying.
So good morning. I am Dave, the man who has just sued Cassandra Ventura for damages involved in the Sean Combs sex trafficking trial. And I'm looking through social media and I see a lot of the women out there, particularly black women like myself, who choose to victim shame me and try to do everything they can to discredit me, because the truth is that the loss of the Sean Combs trial was a loss to the Me Too movement and to hating women like the women who are trying to insult me. So let me tell you something, you women out there who would like to insult me. This is my story. I was paid by Cassie, Cassandra Ventura, for 8 years to be her male provider. I didn't have to be the best looking guy. I was the best in bed. And because I was the best in bed, guess what? I was given this arrangement. I was coerced. I was drugged. I was manipulated with promises of money and gifts for over a period of 8 years to continue to be this woman's provider at her expense and at the expense of Diddy. Now, at the time, legally, I didn't know my rights as well as I do now. I didn't create this conflict with Cassandra Ventura. She created it with me. She's the one who decided to bring up things that happened over 10 to 15 years ago to hold Sean Combs accountable for what was a partial.
So far, you heard what he said. She paid me. She called me. Me and her was having sex. Diddy didn't call him. Diddy didn't tell him to come through. It was always Cassie paying and calling, folks. So stop acting like this girl was such a victim. No, this girl was a participant that should have been charged, and maybe they would have got Diddy on the other charges had they charged Diddy bodyguards for helping him. Had they charged some of the girls for hiring the sex workers, you would have got Diddy on the higher charges. But a RICO involves a team, and you showed he had no team helping him.
Truth. She's the person who introduced me to the U.S. Attorney's Office. She's the person who told the U.S. Attorney's Office about our relationship. So in essence, those out there who want to hate on me, who want to say that I'm attacking Cassie, you should realize the truth, that Cassandra Ventura, your idol, did this to herself. She exposed herself to liability when she got on the stand and decided to mention me as the male escort who was with her when she overdosed and Diddy made her have sex with him. That was a lie, people. Cassie had just woke up from sleeping 8 hours. Myself and Sean Combs were exhausted. We wanted to go home. Cassie's the one who forced that sexual encounter. People, she tells you...
So you heard him and Diddy was asleep. I don't know if they were asleep together. But they were asleep. She got up after sleeping for 8 hours and she wanted to have a session. You heard him. She wanted to have a session. Everybody making Diddy the bad guy. You heard him. Him and Diddy were done. They were all fucked out. And we all know females' sexual appetite is bigger than a man's. A female can go on and on and on. Us niggas, once a couple nuts, we tapped out. We tapped out. Cassie was not tapped out. Cassie had 2 men ready to go home. You heard him. Let's see why. He said we was ready to go home. They was tapped out. She must got some good cooch. She had these 2 niggas tapped out.
have sex with him. That was a lie, people. Cassie had just woke up from sleeping 8 hours. Myself and Sean Combs were exhausted. We wanted to go home. Cassie's the one who forced that sexual encounter. People, she tells you that Sean Combs made her have sex on her menstrual cycle. I can't speak for anyone else but myself. But I know the one time that did happen, that Sean Combs was not responsible for that. That Cassie, in a drunken, intoxicated, hormonally imbalanced state due to her period, manipulated and forced herself on me during her menstrual cycle. And what I mean by that is I had no knowledge she was on her menstrual cycle because the room was completely dark. She manipulated.
So, once again, now he's saying Cassie lying. Cassie got in the stand and said Diddy made her have sex during her period. He's saying that's not true. He's saying that the time I had sex with her on her period, she did that on her own. Had nothing to do with Diddy. You see how everybody was manipulated. You see how motherfuckers play the females, especially black people. Oh my God, Diddy did this to her. No, the bitch was a participant. The bitch was down for all the shit. And the bitch got $30 million, $40 million for being part of a freak off. Stop feeling sorry for this bitch. This bitch came up.
Manipulated the room. She manipulated the environment to get what she wanted, and then she totally got up like I was the one who should have been grateful. You're on your period. That's disgusting, and I deserved more respect than that. As a man, if I had laid down with a woman and forced myself on her and orgasmed in her and she got up and it was leaking out of her, guess what? I would have raped her. So by statute, by case law definition, Cassandra Ventura sexually assaulted me. I'm not looking to destroy Cassie. I've given Cassie more than a year to settle this before things got out of control.
See? So Cassie don't want to settle with motherfuckers that she did shit to, but she was trying to line Diddy up and help get Diddy in all sorts of trouble because she wanted her check. But the bitch ain't even paying niggas. Bitch, you ain't learning your lesson. What can happen when you don't pay niggas? Diddy got charged in federal court because he ain't paid people fast enough. You ain't paying niggas neither, so you gonna end up in court next.
The problem is that she's being supported by women like you who choose to attack male victims instead of accept the truth, which is that a woman could have lied to get revenge on the ex-boyfriend who broke her heart and hurt her. It happens, people. They say,
and I've been seeing that from day one. Once Cassie seen Diddy running around with Young Miami, and she was stuck with a trainer that didn't have no fucking money. She slept with a trainer, a white boy. He ain't had no money. And he definitely ain't got the pull to do freak offs. So, once she realized that and seen Young Miami getting all the cars and the houses and the money, then she filed her lawsuit. Then she wanted to say Diddy beat her because she wanted to check. She was jealous and she hurt. And this is one of the sex workers saying she lied. And I'm going to show you the other sex workers. This ain't the only sex worker I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you 2 or 3 sex workers that say Cassie is a lying piece of shit scumbag bitch that's running around here with her bloody pussy having sex with dudes. Not because Diddy says so, because she was a junkie with an appetite.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and that's true. If you hurt some women, they will do everything in their power. If you hurt some men, they'll do everything in their power to hurt you. But I want to end this by saying this. Cassie did this to herself. They say he who sets out on the course of revenge should dig 2 graves. People, Cassie dug the grave that is Clayton Howard herself. Cassie got on the stand trying to destroy Diddy. She should have took her $20-30 million and walked into the sunset, people. She should have never gotten on the stand and created further liability for herself by telling more of the lie that she created to get this man sent to prison for his life. She made a mistake when she got on the stand, people. She made a mistake when she got on the stand and lied about the events with Clayton Howard. Clayton Howard is a victim of Cassandra Ventura. Clayton Howard didn't ask to be in a relationship with Cassandra Ventura while she was sleeping with numerous men per week. I get it. You all think I was a nasty male prostitute sleeping with women, all different women all the time. It actually didn't work like that. To have certain types of people that can pay you that well, what you really have to do is you have to focus on people who are affluent. And affluent people don't engage in activities like that. So I might have had a client once a month. The truth is I was only a male escort for 2 years. I continued in the profession because Cassie and Diddy continued to pay me very well. And I was an ex-con. I needed money. Yes, I was trapped in a situation. I'll admit that. I didn't know what to do. But does that mean I should be victim shamed because the same thing that happened to women all the time happened to me as a man? No. And for those women out there, for you black women who choose to shame me as a black man for telling my truth, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's probably pretty much all I have to say. You will not see me too much in the media. I don't need the public to believe me. I just need a jury of my peers and 12 people to believe me in the court. And thanks to the testimony of Cassie during the trial of Sean Combs, I have that. Thank you for watching. Stop victim shaming. Thank you.
And that's why Cassie made a big mistake by trying to sue Diddy, because people are suing Cassie. We finna get to some more. People are suing Cassie, and her testimony is going to be used against her, and she lied a lot. Like he said, Cassie paid me. Diddy ain't paid me. Cassie was in control of the situation, not Diddy. Cassie. Because if it was Diddy, he would just sue Diddy. It's just that simple. Diddy's convicted. He can just sue Diddy now, but he's not doing that. He's going after the person he believed harmed him. But let's get to some more shit.
All right, here we go. Today we have Sheree Hayes, a.k.a. Punisher, who recently took the stand in the Diddy trial to discuss being hired as an escort to have intercourse with Cassie while Diddy watched. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Man, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate being here.
I just want to start off that I feel a little uncomfortable calling you Punisher. As a heterosexual male, I just want to put that out there. I mean, I will mention the name because, you know, that's your alias, but I just want to have that disclaimer in the very beginning. Just want to say that.
Man. You got to keep it solid, right?
Got to keep it solid. Got to keep it solid. Well, you have a very interesting story, and I want to get into a little bit of it before we get into, you know, what we're really here to talk about. Now, you grew up in Harlem.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said your dad was kind of a gangster around the neighborhood?
Yeah, man. Like he had a pretty good reputation, man. A lot of intimidation that got me like a lot of respect and a lot of treatment, you know, great treatment as a kid. But, you know, that led him into prison at a very young age. So we didn't really rekindle our relationship till I got to my late teens because he ended up getting locked up.
What did you get locked up for?
Bank robbery.
Bank robbery?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty bold there.
Yeah.
How much did he get?
He got 8 years federal.
8 years.
Yeah.
How much money did he get from the bank?
The crazy thing is not much, man. It was more of he didn't do like the in the bank robbery. It was, you know, how businesses do the bank drop. So he tried to rob the bank drop and, you know, it got compromised. The person had a pistol and didn't go right.
Now, while you're growing up, when you were in high school, you had a situation where you got stabbed?
Yeah, man. Just, you know, hanging out in Harlem, thinking I'm tough. I'm at a party. Some guys don't like my friend, and we get into something outside, and I got the bottle. You know, you crack the bottle, and somebody came from behind, caught me on the side of the neck, spent 10 days in the hospital. I had 10 stitches in, 10 stitches out. It was a really, really, really significant wound. But I mean, I'm 16 years old, man. I'm pumped up on testosterone and adrenaline. And actually, you would think something like that would calm you down, but it made you worse. You know, made me worse because I had this mentality of, well, look, I already survived it. Like, what's the chances of something happening again? And it made me a little more reckless. But luckily, I found sports, and that kind of leveled it out for me. Okay, and the Punisher name came from basketball? Yeah, man, basketball, man. I started hooping real seriously. Getting stabbed, I ended up missing a year of high school. So when I started back up, I went to Martin Luther King, ended up on the basketball team. I played my junior and senior year, and actually ended up with a partial scholarship to Southern University in Baton Rouge to hoop. Okay. Did you end up actually going to college, or? Yeah, I went to Southern University. I went to hoop, but I still had kind of like a Harlem, even though I'm not going to front like I was a street kid, but when you're young and a teenager, you want to be tough. So I walked around with kind of that bravado. You take a Harlem kid and you put him in the middle of Louisiana.
Okay, so by 22, you became a male stripper.
Yeah.
Okay, what led you into that?
Yo, I ended up staying in a relationship with my high school sweetheart, and she came home one day and just was like, I'm gonna start working in a female strip club. And basically gave me no choice. It was like, take it or leave it. So I took it. Like, I didn't, I was in love. And about a year into her doing that, she came home one day talking about, I'm meeting all these guys. I don't want to be tied down anymore. And she dumped me. So my 21-year-old mind thought it was a good idea that, I'll show her. I'm going to go be a stripper too. And then she'll see all the girls into me and feeling me. And then I'll get her back. And that's really was the motivation to get my girlfriend back.
Okay, so describe to me the first night doing male stripping. Because it's very different than a regular female strip club.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So my first night actually was doing house parties. The guy who introduced me, like put me on to it, he was like really popular in the game. So like a male dancer, you'll get 5 or 6 parties a night where you just go from house to house to house, and it's bachelorette parties. So he just took me with him and was like, yo, bro, let's go. When you come in, just say you're a stripper already. Don't say you're a new guy, and just kind of, come along with me to see the ropes. And one of the spots he got to, the girls was like, who's your friend? And they were like, do you want him to dance? And so he comes in the room like, bro, they want you to dance. How much money you want? And I didn't even want to dance. I was terrified. So I was like, I'm going to think of a lot of money, so it's going to outprice me and they don't want me to dance. And I was like, tell them I want $50, right? So he comes back and throws me the 50. And I went out there with this little eye patch thong on and some Saucony track sneakers and just hopped around their living room. It must have looked crazy, man. I picked up the Bachelorette. She was a little heavy. Reggae song was on. She started bogling. I fell over, dropped, landed on top of her. It was complete, like, it was a horror show, man. But it was it happened. I made it happen, and 30 years later, I'm still on the hustle.
Okay, so were you getting naked or just like a thong kind of situation?
Yeah, at the time, just down to like a little eye patch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little G-string. But it eventually got to the point where, not necessarily negate, because that doesn't really work with women, but it does get to a point where you do something which is called flash. So, like, when you get further in the business, you understand the illusions, right? So if anybody's seen videos of male dancers, and sometimes it looks like they walking with like something swinging down to their knee, right? That's something called beefing up, where prior to the show, you get an erection and you use something similar to like a cock ring and you tie it on the base. So you're basically tying your erection to keep the blood in. And after about 20, 30 minutes, it does get painful or whatever, but you got to kind of just manage it. But it gives the illusion like you're walking around with this swinging, because it's not fully, but it's hanging. So you look like in a flaccid state, you like 6 inches flaccid. So women going to think, wow, if that thing gets erect, it's going to be big. So you start doing this illusion, and it gives you like a little reputation to walk around. And if you tie it well enough, at some point in your show, you can have a moment where you pull it out and then the girls just go nuts.
Okay, so you're dancing for these women, and these are sometimes overweight women, like you mentioned, and middle-aged women. These are not like supermodels that you're doing this for.
Nah, if you're gonna get like a 10% ratio, like 1 out of every 10 girls is like, okay, she's nice, but the other 9,
Okay, now leading up to the situation with Diddy and Cassie, were women actually paying you to have sex with them?
Nah, that like being a male escort was not necessarily my hustle, but you do get opportunities as a stripper. But it's never, women are not overt with, hey, how much for sex? Like that's not how they do. So when you get propositioned by women, it's usually, do you do one-on-ones? Can I hire you to dance for me? just me, or do you do massages, right? So it always starts out as some sort of just one-on-one intimate thing. But if you read between the lines, there's a possibility where she wants it to escalate for sex. So have I been hired for a one-on-one dance that led into sex? Yes. You know what I'm saying? But have I ever said, hey, sex is XYZ an hour? You know what I'm saying? Whatever. No, because, women are not going to hire you under those pretenses. There's always some sort of intimacy that can lead to the opportunity.
Okay, so leading up to the Cassie situation, how many women actually hired you for one-on-ones?
I want to say leading up to the Cassie situation, I would say maybe 20, 25.
Okay. And how much do you charge each time?
Man, listen, I was still a dancer, right? So I'm charging a dancer's rate. So I guess I'm probably the cheapest gigolo in the city because I'm getting a dancer's rate. And if it led to sex, honestly, it wasn't because I got paid for sex. It was because this is a woman I would have had sex with anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's attractive. She's somebody that I would deal with. And if she hired me for a one-on-one and there was some actual attraction, then obviously I'll let it go to the next step.
Okay, but you told me that only 1 out of 10 are actually attractive, so...
Well, I'm talking about, that's in the club.
Okay.
So in the club, there's 500 women, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying 1 out of every 10 of those 500 women are attractive. When women call me for a one-on-one, then I can kind of screen what it is. And now, mind you, even with that ratio, I got called for probably 20, 30 parties a week. Like in my height of dancing, I was extremely popular, and culturally, it was the thing to do, like hire a male stripper, you know what I'm saying? So I became kind of like a local celebrity as a male stripper during that time frame,
Yeah, my man Roger Bonds, who I just put you on FaceTime with, said he knew of you. He said he was a Harlem guy, you're a Harlem guy. You guys didn't know each other, I think, personally, but he knew of you.
Yeah.
And he basically said how around that time, a lot of guys were coming out of prison and they were all like jacked up from working out, and a lot of them would go into male stripping and so forth. Did you see a lot of that?
Yeah, I seen the attempt of it. Like, every guy think, I'm in good shape, I can just do this. But it's not really that easy, man. Like, if you'll get a couple of parties, you'll come through, you'll make a couple of bucks. But if you're going to do it as a living, it probably was just a handful of guys that consistently did it. And you got to build a reputation. You got to be known for it to be profitable other than a couple of bucks, maybe once or twice a month,
Okay, so 2012, you're around 38 years old at the time. You have a website called Get Punished.
Yes.
And you get contacted by a female from this website.
Yep.
Which ended up being Cassie.
Exactly.
So what was the first contact like?
Seemed like just a normal, typical party. I pick up the phone. It's like she introduces herself as Janet.
Janet.
Yep, it's Janet, and she says it's her birthday. She said, it's my birthday, and my husband told me that I can have an entertainer, and I'm celebrating with some friends. So we want you to come through and do a dance for me and my friends. So I'm expecting a small gathering of women to do a show. And so we scheduled it. We picked a time. He told me the Trump Hotel. And the time originally was like midnight, then it got pushed to 1, then it got pushed to 2, and I think eventually we scheduled on like 2:45 a.m.
Okay. And was money discussed at this point?
Yeah, the going rate at the time to a regular striptease was like $200. So that's what I quoted.
Okay. So you show up to the Trump Hotel. What happens next?
Bro, it's crazy because I'm coming in expecting a party, and the door opens and it's Janet, and she's basically in a robe, but it's completely obvious that she's nude underneath. And she kind of just opens the door with this big inviting smile. Hey, how you doing? And I'm like, because listen, man, we live in a time with filters, and every woman can make themselves look attractive and beautiful on social media and stuff like that. But when you see a woman like Miss Ventura, and she looks flawless, man. It's a wow factor, So opening the door to that stunning of a woman was like, what is this? And I like, she's negative, right? So you can tell she's negative. So she's like, come on in, and I'm heading on in, you know?
Okay, so you come in the room, and there's someone else in the room.
No,
At that point, no.
no.
Just her.
I come, so it's a suite, right? So she brings me in, and she takes me straight to the living room. And the living room is darkly lit, it's dim. And then what was weird about it is every piece of furniture was covered in sheets. So I look around, I have like a little mini freak out because I think I just watched this movie called American Psycho. And when he used to bring people into his house to kill him, he used to cover all his furniture. So I'm like, yo, what's about to happen? But whatever, I regained my composure. We stopped in front of a bathroom, and so I immediately asked, I still think I'm gonna dance, right? So I say, do you want me to change here? So she immediately explains, look, I don't want you to dance. Actually, while you're here is me and my husband, we like to create a sexy scene. So she starts explaining to me that she wants me to change into underwear or a towel, and then she points to two of the couches, and she said, we're gonna sit on those couches, you're gonna sit here, I'm gonna be here, and we're gonna put baby on and create like a sexy environment, and at some point, my husband's gonna come out and watch.
Okay, so how much baby oil was around at this point?
So the baby oil, ironically, by the couches, there were like bowls, and the bowls were filled with warm water, and there were just big bottles of baby oil just placed in the bowls. So
Okay.
I want to say it was 2 to 3 bottles of baby oil, but the big ones, the
jumbo.
the thirst busters.
Okay. All right, so you start putting the baby oil on at this point?
Yeah, so I go in the bathroom, change to the towel. I come out. She's in the robe, so she takes her robe off. I'm in my towel, and we're both first individually oiling each other. And then it leaves, I'm oiling myself, she's oiling herself, then we start oiling each other. And then there's some sort of like, masturbation, like I'm masturbating, she's masturbating, we're creating this sexual environment. And at some point, shortly after that started, her husband walked into the room.
Okay. Now, this husband that walks in the room was a black male
Black male.
who was only wearing a veil on his face?
Yes. So he walks into the room. Now, one part that I left out is part of the instructions initially was in creating these scenes. When her husband came in, we were not supposed to acknowledge him at all. I was supposed to act like he's not there. Don't look at him. Don't talk to him. Try my best to just make believe he's not in the room. So even when he walks in, I have to look at him from my peripherals, but I'm gonna look, right? Because I never been in a situation that's kind of odd. So he does walk in nude. I can kind of see, but then when it gets to his neckline, it's like I think they call a burqa, like the Muslim women wear it, and you can only see the eyes.
Okay. So you got this naked guy in the room with you. You don't know who it is, though.
I have no idea.
He's not talking or anything else like that at this point?
Not at this point. He just comes in. I notice in his hands a purple top. So I use Astroglide so I can kind of make out he had Astroglide. Mm-hmm. And across the room, there was like a table with a chair. So he kind of sat at the table in the chair, and he sat there, and he would get up and kind of walk side to side and pace side to side, which you could tell he was trying to get better visual angles.
Okay. What happens next?
With the visual angles, he would start giving very subtle directions, but it was just more or less on viewing. Like the room was candlelit, so he would at times get her attention and tell her, "Hey, move the candle to the left, move the candle to the right, turn your body this way." And he never spoke directly to me, but it could be instructions for me to turn my body, for me to get in different positions. And so this went on about 20, 25 minutes. Eventually, he just got up and left the room. That was kind of like a cue for her to follow him. She left the room, and then she just came back and was like, "That was great. It was perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Like, we're good." But then she asked me, "Do I want to finish?" And so me finishing is referring to me having an orgasm. But honestly, man, with the environment and stuff, I'm kind of uncomfortable. So I declined. Like I went the high road. Like professionally, like look, if you guys are happy, I'm happy. It's not about my needs. As long as everything is good, cool. And she accepted that, and I stood up, and she handed me $1,200, and that was in addition. I didn't mention when I first got there, prior to changing, the first thing she did was handed me $800, and after everything was over, it was an additional $12. So I ended up with $2,000 for like a 20-minute baby oil massage. So it was a win for me.
Okay, and so you guys didn't have sex, but you rubbed baby oil on her naked body and everything else like that. So there was definitely sexual activity, but not full-blown
Sex, no.
Okay, so you got $2,000, and you didn't recognize Cassie at all, did you?
I did not, man.
At that point, yeah.
I saw a face, but I couldn't completely make it out. Like, so she had on a wig, right? So she's wearing a wig. So later after the fact, I didn't have the cue of the shaved hair, kind of look. So, and I'm looking at the face, and I just couldn't figure it out. When I left, I tried to jump on Google. I knew they had to be some sort of celebrity couple, but I think what was throwing me off was I thought they were married. So all my Google searches are married couple, married couple, married couple, and obviously they're not going to come up under that search term.
So as you can see, Cassie was in control of a lot of shit. She was paying dudes, and people want to act like she was innocent. No. Sorry to tell y'all, that bitch was not innocent. She was running the show. But we gonna keep watching. We gonna go. Damn, what's up with my fucking internet? My shit acting up. Jeez, I didn't even go this far. Where the fuck is this shit at? Jesus Christ. Oh my God, brother.
Okay, so you got paid $3,500, and they booked you 2 more times.
Yeah, they booked me 3 more times. One of those times, I came over and I got off the elevator, and he pretty much met me at the door and was like, hey, she's not feeling good right now, so we're gonna scratch this and do it like a different night. I'm like, all right, cool. So.
Okay, now, as you're getting to the second and third session, it was pretty much the same routine, but certain things were different because at one point you guys would be having sex, you and Cassie, and then Diddy would like tag in.
Yeah, like so we'd be engaging, and he would be like, all right, King, like I'm about to tap in right now. And then he would say, go over there. So I would go over there, and then he'd come over, and then they would engage in their own passionate intercourse, which wouldn't last too long. And then he'd be like, all right, I'm good, come back over. And he'd go back over to where he was, and then I'd sit there, and yeah. He kind of switched off, but he never wanted me around him, which is why I thought that the gay accusations were a bit much, because knowing him as long as I've known him, right, I never got that vibe from him. He never even wanted me next to him when this was happening. I didn't want him next to me either, so it seemed like we were all on the same page, right? So
Yeah.
he did his thing.
Although rubbing your cum on his nipples is somewhat gay, so
I wasn't involved in that. I wasn't involved in that.
I know
But
you
yes,
weren't, but I'm just saying,
yes. Yeah, what he
gay
did,
rumors,
that was diabolical.
there's
What he
that
did
one
behind
hill you have
closed
to get
doors.
over. You know what I'm
Picasso
trying to
in his
dispel that
chest.
myth. I'm just saying. It's a big hill. It's very
a lot.
steep.
It's a very big hill.
It's a very steep hill. Now, in the beginning, you and Cassie were using condoms, but that switched at one point.
Yeah, I think one time we went without, and to be clear on that, he would always ask, do you want to do this without a condom? And they would have a conversation as if I'm not in the room. Very calm. She'd be like, oh, I don't know. He's like, these guys are tested. And she would ask me, I'm like, yeah, I'm tested. And he'd be like, do you want to do this? And she'd be like, no, not right now. And he would kind of just let that go. He was never forceful in like saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. So, and I think one of the times out of the 4 was one time that we did engage in intercourse without protection, but it was very quick. She came to me and started that process and looked to him to see if this was something that was like cool to do, and he kind of gave a head nod, and that's what it was.
In the words of Cameron, how's the pussy?
How do you think it was? It was great.
It was great?
It was great. I was singing Me and You in my head the whole time. It was good.
All right, here we go. Today we have Rico Bozant.
Fuck, man.
One of the escorts hired for freak-offs with Diddy and his girlfriend Jane Doe, who took the stand in Puffy's Fed trial. Jane Doe is allegedly the baby mother of a famous rapper from Queens. Rico, welcome to Vlad TV.
What's up? Good to be here.
Well, things are pretty crazy right now. The jury deliberations are going for the Diddy trial. And you are involved in this overall case, although you didn't take the stand. So I just want to get your whole story. So you grew up in New Orleans.
Yes.
Okay. And you got into a bunch of trouble growing up.
Yeah.
Expelled from
process.
schools, fighting, this, that. And I guess when you were 16, you went to juvenile for a while?
Yeah, for 5 months I had to live in juvenile in the boot camp.
Okay. When you got out, you started fighting, MMA.
Started doing MMA amateur and then went professional.
Okay, but once you went professional, things went bad in terms of blood clots?
Yep. I got pulmonary embolism and a blood clot in my heart, and I was diagnosed with protein S deficiency. It's like a hereditary condition where my blood gets real thick. So I had to get on medication and had to stop fighting.
Okay, so you stopped fighting, and then a few years later, you actually went to jail for marijuana possession?
I went to jail for marijuana possession and a bank fraud charge.
Okay,
And-
you did 2 years.
2.5, yep.
2.5. I was going to say marijuana possession doesn't usually come with that unless you have some massive
And like
quantity.
the bank fraud I got when I was 17, so I honestly was not supposed to be getting charged as an adult in Louisiana, but it was just a pretty bad justice system at the time.
Okay, so in 2020, you moved to Las Vegas, and you started a gym, you started training fighters and so forth.
Yep, started managing fighters and producing their review shows in Las Vegas.
Okay.
I know one thing for sure. This like the third sex worker we listened to, and they all got shit fucked up around their lips, man. Dealing with Diddy and Cassie got y'all all fucked up.
Hey, so how'd you get into the male review shows?
When I was in New Orleans after I stopped fighting, I started doing acting, and I was on NCIS New Orleans set, and Channing Tatum was there, and he told me about a restaurant that he had on Bourbon Street called Saints and Sinners, where a lot of bachelorettes and birthday parties go, and they needed a dancer, because I was actually hired on set to be a dancer, and when they see me dance, he offered me that job. So I went and tried it out, and I made a lot of money dancing for bachelorette and birthday parties, and it just like became a thing for me.
Okay, so you're dancing at these parties, but, for example, I interviewed Punisher,
Yeah.
who was doing similar type of work. You're doing dancing, but some of the girls, they want privates, after the fact. Was that happening during that time?
No, it wasn't.
At all?
Nope.
Okay, but at one point, that did start happening.
Yes, when I moved to Vegas.
Okay, so what was happening in Vegas?
I started the same show that Punisher manages in New York. I managed that show in New Orleans and Las Vegas.
Oh, same show.
Male Review, yep.
Okay. And what started to happen at that point?
I started training and moving guys in to be a part of the show, and I got with the agency that eventually got me to meet up with the Jane Doe, and just was doing the show and then training people out there.
Okay, but at that point in Vegas, when you were doing the male stripping, were you also sleeping with some of the clients?
It happened a couple times.
Okay, so how would it happen?
Booked through the agency, because it's originally the agency. It's like a companion agency, and you get paid to go on dates, to go on red carpets. It's more of like a boyfriend-girlfriend experience, but people will request, because it's mostly celebrities and high-end clients, they will request to have sex during those things, and you have the choice to not to or to decide to and set a higher rate.
Okay, and this is Cowboys for Angels?
Yep.
All right, so describe your first escort experience.
My first escort experience, I was booked with a lady, and I went to a Bruno Mars concert with her, and then we went out to eat at Mastro's, but that one wasn't a sexual encounter. We're just like, she just needed a date and wanted to spend time with somebody.
Okay, how much did that cost?
$2,000.
Okay. When did the first sexual escort experience happen?
First sexual escort experience happened. It was in Las Vegas at the Venetian, and I went to a show at the Sphere with the client. I was booked for a 4 hour, which is $2,000. And then when we got back from lunch, she asked me, she was like, would you be willing to? And I was like, I've never done it before, but if I was getting paid this amount, which is $5,000, I'd be comfortable to do that. And she was like, all right, that's okay. So that was my first sexual experience, was in Las Vegas.
Okay, so you got paid $3,000 to smash on top of the $2,000 you were already getting.
It was the $2,000 for the 4 hour, then the $3,000 on top to make
That's
it
what I'm
5.
saying. Yeah. Okay, so you just had sex for $3,000.
Yeah.
How was that experience? Were you able to perform, or was it kind of like in your head a little bit?
No, she was very attractive. It's something like,
Okay.
I would have talked to this woman if I would have seen her out in public and done it anyway. It's like, it wasn't like it was a good thing. It was just, I got paid instead of.
So you got females that look good, that's pretty, that's sexy, that dudes would sleep with anyway, and they paying thousands of dollars. That's crazy.
Doing it for free, kind of.
Okay, how many of these sexual escort experiences did you have leading up to the whole Diddy thing?
2.
2.
Yeah.
So her and somebody else.
Yep.
Okay, was the second one attractive as well, or not so much?
Not so much.
Okay. So how are you able to perform when you're not attracted to the woman?
Cialis. Cialis and energy drinks.
Okay. And you got paid the extra $3,000 for that one as well?
Yep.
All right, so now you're making some money.
Because with the agency, it's like you sign a contract saying it's not sexual. When a person books you on the website, they go through this whole legal form. You can't request. So it's something that's not even part of the agency, because it's like they say you could get in trouble. The person could get in trouble if they request it. So outside of that, it's up to you. You know what I'm saying? It's like not even connected to the agency.
Okay, so leading up to the Diddy situation, that went to the agency as well.
Yes.
So who contacted the agency? Was it Diddy or was it Jane Doe?
It seemed like Jane Doe from the text thread, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. So the agency calls you and says, look, we have a new client for you.
Yeah, there's like, we have a celebrity client and you're gonna have to sign the NDA.
Okay. So Jane Doe actually told the agency that there's a celebrity involved.
He had already been with the agency.
Oh,
They had
because
booked
Diddy
with
had
the
already
agency,
been
booked-
using that agency
yes.
for a while. Ah, okay, I get it. And they knew who he was and so forth.
Yeah, they knew everything.
Okay, so you get booked and they send you the NDA. You go through the NDA, what do you think at that point?
It didn't really seem like a legit NDA, but I just signed it because it was more like of a makeup company from what I understood. I feel like it was more of a scare tactic than an official NDA, you know?
Okay, so you sign the contract, you get the payment, and it was $2,000, right?
Yeah, you get that 2000 when you get there.
Got it. And this was at the Edition Hotel in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Okay. You knock on the door, what happens next?
I knock on the door and he opens the door.
He opens the door.
Yeah.
Okay, so no masks, no nothing?
No masks,
Just
no
Diddy
nothing.
right there in front of you.
Yeah.
What did you think when you first saw Diddy right there standing in front of you and you realized, okay, this is the client?
I had a friend that's with the agency that when I told him I had a celebrity booking, he told me, he was like, it's going to be Diddy and the girl. And I was like, this was like 2 days before the booking. And I'm like, no. So like when he opened it, I was just like, oh, he was right. That's exactly who it is.
Okay. So now you have Diddy standing in front of you and you're like, okay, my friend told me the right story.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
I walk in, he was like, what's up, man? You know who I am? And I knew who he was, but I was like, no. When he was like, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, and I was like, and he played a song, and I was like, oh yeah. And he was like, well, my girl's in the room. He was like, do you want to drink? And I was like, no, I'm good. And he was like, do you smoke? So I was like, yeah. So we walked out to the balcony, and we sitting there on the balcony just smoking, and he's like asking me about myself, my career, what I do, and telling me the girls getting ready in the room. And he's like, we chop it up for like 25 minutes about like music, my fight career, and then he starts to tell me, well, this is what I want to do. I have a girl in there I want you to dance for. I want to create an environment. I want to create a vibe. And then she walks out a little while later in lingerie.
Okay. And this is a Asian female?
Yeah, like a black and Asian female. I didn't really know who it was at the time.
Okay. Okay. So the female walks in. Did she look familiar to you?
No.
Okay. What happens next?
She sits down. She's in lingerie. We smoke and talk for like 15 minutes about different stuff. And then she's like, do you want to dance with me? And he was like, before y'all dance, I want to create a scene. He was like, told her to stand at the edge of the balcony. He was like, he told her he want her to pretend that I'm walking in the bar and we're just meeting. And she's like, okay. And she's like, hey, how you doing? Just starts to play it, you know? So I play along with her. And we do that for like 3 minutes. And I was like, can we just go inside? I can dance for you. And she's like, yeah, sure. So we walk inside and she's put towels like on the floor. There's towels on the sofa, towels on the floor, like a bunch of white towels. I'm like, but there was like 2 bottles of baby oil sitting next to it. So he tells her where to sit, and I start dancing for her. While I'm dancing for her, he's kind of instructing her, like, I want you to sit here and telling her to pour baby oil on herself. When I took my shirt off, tell her to put baby oil on me, and did that for like 10 minutes. And then I stopped dancing for her. He was like, can you take her pants off? She was like, I got some underwear I want you to wear. Like, she had the specific underwear she wanted me to wear. And she pulled them on. I'm like, okay. She's like, can you go put them on? So I go put the underwear on, come back. I start dancing for her. And as I'm dancing for her, he's sitting to the side, and I see he pulls the phone out and starts to record me dancing. And I'm like, no, don't record me. So he's like, all right, cool. He puts the phone down. But there's also a laptop sitting next to him, and it's like open towards me. So I go over there, and then I close the laptop, and then I go back and I start dancing for her.
Okay, but didn't Diddy have a conversation with you ahead of time that says that he's in a porn and he wants to create his own porn movies in front of him, basically?
Yeah, that was the conversation before he set up the scene and said, like, I'm walking in from the bar.
Okay. What did you think when he kind of described this whole, real life porno?
I was wondering, because I told him I was in film school and like my purpose for being in film school, so I kind of feel like he was just segueing that. And he was saying he's at a point in his life where he likes to create his own porn, and he has a beautiful girl in here, and I'm gonna enjoy it. And I was like, all right, cool, you know.
Okay. Now, what is Diddy doing as you guys are kind of doing all this foreplay?
He's just sitting there watching.
Okay, he's fully clothed?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens when you guys get more and more sexual?
She starts to give me oral there, and then she was like, do you want to go in the room? So we go in the room, and he actually takes his shirt off, so he's sitting in the corner while we're on the bed having sex, and she just kind of overdoing the baby all thing, and I'm like, it's like a lot, it's kind of too much, you know what I'm saying? I start wiping myself off with the towel. And she was like, I like baby oil, I got a thing for baby oil, and I'm like, all right, but it's a lot, like it's almost overwhelming on the baby oil, you know what I'm saying?
Only 2 bottles though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I see at this point is only 2 bottles.
Okay, probably more in the back. Now, did you get any sort of gay vibes from Diddy at all?
I didn't, but just him wanting to watch that, you never know. But at the same time, how he gave the explanation of creating his own porn, you know.
Okay. Were you uncomfortable?
Why do everybody keep saying Diddy gay? If so, are you gay if you sit home and watch porn? What's the difference between watching live porn and at home porn? So if you gay because you watching it live, that means you gay because you watch it at home too. So people need to stop that narrative.
The man right there while you're trying to, do your thing with the female?
No, he kind of kept his distance, and as we had that conversation before, as we were sitting outside, she asked me, she was like, are you comfortable doing the threesome, or would you be open to? And I was like, I never did it, and I'm not comfortable doing it. And so I kind of like put that out there before we even started, you know?
Okay, so Diddy actually wanted to do an actual threesome with you and Jane Doe as opposed to just watching, but you said, no, I'm good.
She asked.
She asked,
Yeah.
which meant that he was okay with it.
Yeah.
Right?
No, lad. She asked, how you know she wasn't gonna bring in another girl or Diddy wasn't gonna have another girl? People just want to make Diddy gay when, in all reality, everything we've heard so far says he's not gay. He got into it with the dude because dude tried to, but whatever.
Okay, so you have these 2 sessions, and you go back to your normal life. The Cassie lawsuit comes out. This was maybe 6 months later, 9 months later, something like that.
Yeah.
When you heard about the lawsuit, what did you think?
It kind of blew my mind, and then when the lawsuit came out, all allegations came out, and there was 3 friends I told about the situation, and they called me instant. They're like, man, Rico, remember you telling me about the all situation and sending me the links, and I'm like, man, this is crazy, But I never thought it would come to me, and I started getting calls from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, started calling me. Saying they wanted to talk to me, and I had a friend that was an attorney, so I called him, and he was like, well, you don't have to talk to them. They don't have a subpoena, this and this. So then 2 days later, they called me, they was like, we have a subpoena, and so you got to talk to us. So I just avoided them. They was calling me, trying to meet up with me, and they knew I lived on Sunset. They was like, we're here on Sunset, we just want you to talk to you for a second. So I avoided them for 5 months, and then I was promoting an event I was working for, and I posted on social media. And so I go outside, they're like, Rico, someone's outside, and I think it's just one of my guests trying to get into the event. And when I go out there, the guy pulls up a phone and starts recording me. He hands me a letter, and as he's handing it to me, I grab it, and it's a long line of people outside, and the producer for the show, and I grab it, and he pulls out his phone, and he's like, you're set to be here in the pier. He pulled up his shirt and showed his badge, and was being loud about it. And I knew exactly what it was once he started doing that, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so now you have an actual subpoena.
Yeah.
For the grand jury.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, did the Diddy house raids already happen or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So you now know that things are getting more and more serious. Real. Right. So the Diddy house raids happen. The Cassie lawsuit has been settled, but everyone got to read through all the craziness in it. And did the Cassie video come out yet or no?
It was just beginning, that stuff was just beginning to come out.
Okay. When you saw the Cassie video, the hallway, Intercontinental video, what'd you think?
I felt like that was bad.
See, If he was being real, what he would have said is, this is how I would answer. Damn, how you feel about the Cassie video? I know a whole bunch of Diddies. Fucking, it's a Diddy on every corner in the fucking hood that beat they bitch. So all these black dudes that be trying to act like Diddy is bad, they all full of shit. I promise you, 2 or 3 of their homeboys beat they bitches on the regular in front of them. But because it's Diddy, we want to make a big deal about it. I can name 10 of my friends that I grew up with that beat they bitches and I watched. And just like Diddy, when your boy is beating his girl, right? You, in the beginning, when it first happens, you may try to break it up and this and that. But 6 months down the line, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, she been putting up with getting her ass whooped, right? Why do you continue to jump in it? Or why would you continue to jump in it? The bitch been around for 4 or 5 years getting her ass whooped. So when these niggas act like, oh, it's so bad, they all full of shit. I promise you they got homeboys that done beat they bitch ass in front of them.
I felt bad for her and like felt bad for being around someone that ruthless that would do that to a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I mean, before the video came out, he had a whole Instagram post like, all these lies spread about me. I will protect my name and my family. They're all false, whatever. Then that video comes out, and then he did he's like, yo, I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
I was in a dark place.
Should have said that at first. Right?
I know, right? So the video comes out, the lawsuit, has been settled. The house raids have happened. I mean, when you heard about the house raids, when they raided both his LA and Miami home, did you think at this point, okay, things are really getting serious?
Yeah, I did. But at the same time, in my head, I was like, I didn't let him record any of me, so I wasn't really worried. So I didn't think I had anything to worry about,
Right. But now you have an actual subpoena to go to a grand jury. Where was that? In what state?
New York.
In New York?
Yep.
Okay, so what was the grand jury like?
I actually did it on Zoom, so it was like me and like 8 people. It was me, my lawyer, I guess, like the DA and like 7 jurors, and they just questioned me about what happened and everything that went on. Kind of told them the same thing, and asking questions like, did I feel forced, or did it feel like she was forced, or was there any drugs around, like kind of stuff that could lead to something,
Right. And, I mean, based on what you said, you weren't forced.
Yep.
Did she seem like she was forced at all?
She was chill and enjoying it. I didn't feel like nobody was forced in the situation.
Right. And there really were no drugs. It was just like
It was just weed, alcohol, yeah.
Exactly. And then just the various, quarter store pills and honey and whatever else, right? And baby oil. Exactly. Were you worried that you might get charged with prostitution at that point?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do they say about that?
They just told me as long as I just tell them what really happened, I won't have nothing to worry about.
I mean, during this grand jury process, were any of the other, escorts that were part of this agency, were they part of it as well? Like some of your people were also part of this grand jury?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys were like talking with each other, like, yo, I'm about to go, when you going? So how many people did you know that were part of this grand jury?
2.
So 3 of you total?
Yeah.
And how did everyone feel when you guys were talking to each other?
Kind of just like nervous that there would be consequences for us and wondering what the turnout was going to be. And like, we didn't know at the time that was going to be released. So like, none of us was really saying anything about it.
Mm. Were they saying they're going to actually put you on the stand?
They said it's a possibility.
Okay. How'd you feel about that?
I didn't want to do it. But if I had to, you have to,
Did any of the other escorts that you do, the other 2 guys, did they ever take the stand?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
Punisher.
Oh, you do Punisher?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. How do you feel about his whole penis implant thing, by the way?
I never really thought about it. I feel like he solved his erectile dysfunction problem,
Right. There you have it. Okay, so let's get into your story. Now, you're an adult film star.
Right.
And you worked for an agency called Cowboys for Angels.
Right, yeah.
Now, what happened around 2016?
2016, I just moved to Miami from Atlanta, and that's when I got the call for a celebrity client to meet at the one hotel on South Beach, and that ended up being Diddy.
Okay, now previous to that, now you did adult films, but were you actually doing escorting, meeting with women, couples, and so forth?
So at that point in time, in 2016, wasn't doing any adult films. I didn't do that until 2023 is when I started, or 2024. So to that point, it was just, I had a job as a market development manager for a small startup company, and then I ended up getting into the escorting business just by way of modeling. Somebody hit me up off Model Mayhem. It looked like spam. First name Garen, last name Teed. Pitched this idea of being a gigolo. Had no idea what that was other than Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo. So, but ended up getting into that, and it was just dates. Go on a date with this older lady and just tell her she's attractive and this is a great time and compliment her, and that's all it was. I had one point where I went on a date with a lady and she had heart palpitations. I had to take her to these are old.
Damn.
These are old. These women are, right? So
what was
for the
the
most
oldest
part,
woman that you went on a date with?
73. Yeah.
Did you guys consummate that?
We did not. No,
Okay.
I'm not a miracle worker. I can't make the dead rise or this. So I was just like, we're gonna eat this. We're gonna eat this Italian food, and that's gonna be it.
Okay.
But that's how it was. The whole thing was described to me. It was like, this isn't sexual. For sexual contact for monetary gratification. Like, this was just going to be dates and stuff like that. So that's really what it was up until this point in time.
Okay, so you're working for Cowboys for Angels, and you get a call that there's a celebrity client, and they don't tell you who it is yet.
No, they don't tell me who it is. All they told me was it was a celebrity client, last name Lopez. And then they went on, as I'm on the way to the hotel, they're like, yeah, so just ask for Mr. Lopez. And in my head, I'm like, this is a straight male escort agency. So I'm trying to figure out how does this work into the situation? I'm like, they knew that wasn't my thing. So I'm thinking in my head, like George Lopez or Jennifer Lopez. It could be like, I'm thinking any Lopez celebrity name. Mm-hmm. So then I get to the hotel, and the front desk clerk walks me upstairs. I said, I'm there for Mr. Lopez. I get up there, it's like Latin music playing in the hallway. So I'm really thinking this is a Hispanic person, celebrity, still trying to rack my brain to figure out who it is. And door opens up, and Diddy's just standing there in like a black wife beater and some shorts. And he's like, what's up, man? I'm like, oh. First thought was like, oh, it's Diddy. Like, this is, and then I was like, oh no, it's Diddy. Because at this point in time, people still, those accusations were out there. So I'm like, I had to double take that for a second. But it was chill. Like, walked right in, and it was pretty easy. Got in there, it looked like an episode of Cribs. It was nothing but Ciroc from like bottom to top of the shelf in the refrigerator, drinking Ciroc, sitting, chilling. He offered me a joint, we smoking. He seemed like he was very, very cool guy. He just got off of some knee surgery and was doing some type of commercial about his recovery at that point in time. So all in all, when this very beginning, it was more so very chill, just kind of hanging out, smoking, chilling. Not until like a couple hours into that did he tell me like, oh, what were you doing tonight? And you're about to have the best Valentine's Day of your life. And then Cassie walks out.
Okay, so Cassie comes in red lingerie.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew who she was right away.
Immediately. I'm a year younger than her, so I grew up with the Me and You song and stuff. I'm like, okay, this is crazy. I don't believe that I'm really here right now, but let's see where this goes. So
okay, so then the two of you started to talk.
Yeah, we started talking. He left the room for a second, and mind you, when I got in there, I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I just noticed like there's a lot of towels, white towels on all the couches and the furniture and stuff. There's a red light over in the side. They're playing like, some very vibey music. And there's like a ton of baby oil like scattered about everywhere, like more than any one man should have, and especially in a hotel room, right? So he had got up and left, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, I made the joke like, there's so much baby oil and candles in here. Like, one wrong move and we all gonna die. You know, we all gonna blow up in this thing. So, but she was very communicative in the fact that she was joking and very playful with me. She told me that she picked me from the site. And it seemed as if this was something that they'd been doing for some years. They said they'd been doing this for a while too. So as far as like the vibe of the night, I took my cues from them. They pretty much knew exactly what they wanted. Again, felt like they'd done this before. And that's pretty much how it started out.
So this sort of talking and, you know, sort of intimate kind of conversation, that lasted for hours.
Yeah, I mean, I was initially supposed to be with her for about 4 or 5 hours. I got paid as soon as I got there. And I'm thinking, again, up to this point, a lot of what I'd been doing was just hanging out. At that point, yeah, it was 4 or 5 hours into it. I thinking I'm about to go home, and then all of a sudden he was like, "All right, you know, we're gonna turn this thing up a little bit." The music changed. More baby oil comes out. Baby oil and KY. I'm like, who got this? You know, it's baby oil and KY comes out.
It's funny. Everybody loved to make the jokes of the KY jelly and the baby oil. But they ain't find none of this. They ain't talk about none of that in court. So people need to stop with the exaggeration. Stop it, brother.
Eat it. They've been heating the baby oil the whole time that we talking in the tub. Right. So this was like they kind of knew what they were doing. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah, that's when it kind of started off. He was more so wanting us to just talk to each other. You know, his whole thing is like being very verbal. So he was in the kitchen in the dark with a bottle of Ciroc, and we're sitting on the couch, and he was like, "What do you like about him? You picked him from the site. What made you pick him from the site? What do you like about her?" You know, he was more so, he wanted us to talk and act like he was not there at all. So that's kind of how it progressed. But it was a very long progression over the course of hours and hours.
Right, because at one point he said, "It's the love hour."
Right, and that's when when the love hour happened and he became Brother Love, then it was like a totally different, the vibe changed. It was more so like the music switched up. He was asking, did he want to refresh drinks and stuff, like a cool host almost, but you can kind of tell like they had some type of formula of where they wanted the night to go. So I was just along for the ride, honestly.
Okay, so you guys start with sexual contact in the beginning, and that actually leads up to penetration at the end?
Yeah, it was more so just physical touch. So there was lots of baby oil around, as I said before, and he was like, "Okay, why don't you put some baby oil on her?" And then she was like, he asked her, "Do you want you to put some baby oil on him?" So it was more so that talking, caressing, stuff like that for hours. Like for an ungodly long amount of time. And at a certain point, she would start to kind of like come towards me to kind of like move things along. And he would be like, no, go back. You know, you just tell him you're moving too fast, you know? So he never was telling anybody what he wanted them to do. He never gave demands to say, touch him, do this. He would say, what do you want to do? Do you want to do this? Do you like that about him? It was all about the verbal cues for him.
Okay, so at the end, you guys actually engage in intercourse.
Yeah, at the end, about like hour 8 or 9 or something like that. It was insane.
At the end of the intercourse, though, something specific happens.
Right, so he wanted me to finish on climax on her. So, and this was something that she said that she was ready for as well. Again, we've been there for a couple hours. It was a weird thing because at this point in time, I'd never had like another male in the room like that. So when he was like, finish, you got to finish manually. So it was a task. Like, I feel like this arm was significantly bigger than this arm by the time I left, because I'm just like, you know, this is weird. He's literally off to the side, drinking Ciroc, talking about, get it, King. Get her, King. It was just a weird, you know, he's in like this. So I'm like, all right.
You see how Vlad loves to hear Diddy stories? Do you actually believe Vlad ain't doing the same type of shit? He loves these stories. He's laughing. He's getting his highs. Stop thinking Vlad ain't up to the same shit. Stop thinking half of the industry ain't up to the same shit. They just want to diss Diddy publicly, but they doing the same shit privately.
It's surreal. But so I finish, and my thought process is, they were getting up to go take a shower because we were in the living room and they were going to go back to their back room. So when she got up to go to the back room, I didn't think anything of it. You're not going to use these KY Johnson & Johnson towels to wipe that off, right? So I'm thinking you're going to go to the back room. So it never crossed my mind what they were doing back there. Had no idea that she was finger painting on his chest with,
your man juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was funny was when I had Punisher on my show, and the exact same routine, right? Have sex, pull out, bust on her, and then she would like run off in the other room, with it. Because a lot of times with him, like Diddy would go in the other room before they finished, and she would like go to him and close the door. And he said when he watched the trial, and when she said that, she would take the cum and rub it on his chest, he was actually relieved because he thought that Diddy was eating it.
I don't know if I'd be relieved. I'm probably equally as terrified from both of those things, right? I'm like, there's no way this is a good scenario.
It's all bad, no matter how you do it.
It's a lot. I found out just like he did during the court process, and I'm reading this transcript with my girlfriend, and she's like, he did what? So it was like, we were all blindsided by that. I never got that vibe from him, that this was something that he was, to me, it was just, he's all about the visual. He wants to watch. I didn't know they were engaging and stuff in the back room. When they would leave, he would be like, all right, bro, you can go ahead and order room service and smoke. And, if you want to leave, you can leave, or I'll come back out and we'll hang out for a second.
Okay, so you got paid $3,500, and they booked you 2 more times.
Yeah, they booked me 3 more times. One of those times, I came over and I got off the elevator, and he pretty much met me at the door and was like, hey, she's not feeling good right now, so we're gonna scratch this and do it like a different night. I'm like, all right, cool. So,
okay, now as you're getting to the second and third session, it was pretty much the same routine, but certain things were different, because at one point you guys would be having sex, you and Cassie, and then Diddy would like tag in.
Yeah, like so we'd be engaging, and he would be like, all right, King, like I'm about to tap in right now. And then he would say, go over there. So I would go over there, and then he'd come over, and then they would engage in their own passionate intercourse, which wouldn't last too long. And then he'd be like, all right, I'm good, come back over. And he'd go back over to where he was, and then I'd sit there, and he kind of switched off, but he never wanted me around him, which is why I thought that the gay accusations were a bit much, because knowing him as long as I've known him, right, I never got that vibe from him. He never even wanted me next to him.
Thank you, brother. Like, everybody trying to make Diddy gay. Diddy ain't gay. Every male escort said the same thing. He didn't want to do nothing with us. He didn't even want us close to him. So, that's how you know the difference between the media that be hating. Like Vlad, all he talks about is Diddy gay, is Diddy gay. You want to know if he's gay so you can make a pass at him, motherfucker. But every male escort says Diddy is not gay.
When this was happening, I didn't want him next to me either, so it seemed like we were all on the same page, right? So, yeah, he did his thing.
Although rubbing your cum on his nipples is somewhat gay, so
I wasn't involved in that.
So you see what I just told you. Vlad wanted him to be gay. This man just told him, nah, he ain't gay. We ain't never did gay shit. But you see how he go right back to it? That's why I laugh at these sucker-ass niggas that run the Vlad. You could run to a black platform and put them on and help them do good.
I wasn't involved in that.
I know
but
you
yes,
weren't, but I'm just saying,
yes.
talking
Yeah,
about
what
the
he
gay
did,
rumors,
that was diabolical.
There's
What he
that
did
one
behind
hill you have
closed
to get
doors.
over, to
Picasso
try to
on his
dispel that
chest.
myth. I'm just saying, it's a big hill. It's very steep.
It's a very big hill.
It's a very steep hill. Now, in the beginning, you and Cassie were using condoms, but that switched at one point.
Yeah, I think one time we went without, and to be clear on that, he would always ask, "Do you want to do this without a condom?" And they would have a conversation as if I'm not in the room. Very calm. She'd be like, "Oh, I don't know." He's like, "These guys are tested." And she would ask me, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm tested." And he'd be like, "Do you want to do this?" And she'd be like, "No, not right now." And he would kind of just let that go. He was never forceful in like saying, "You need to do this, you need to do that." So, and I think one of the times out of the 4 was one time that we did engage in intercourse without protection, but it was very quick. She came to me and started that process and looked to him to see if this was something that was like cool to do, and he kind of gave a head nod, and that's what it was.
In the words of Cameron, how's the pussy?
How do you think it was? It was great.
It was great.
It was great. I was singing "Me and You" in my head the whole time. It was good. It was good.
Okay. Okay, so let's get into your story. Now, you're an adult film star.
Right.
And you worked for an agency called Cowboys for Angels.
Right, yeah.
Now, what happened around 2016?
2016, I just...
All right, here we go. Today we have Don the Dealer, who was a male escort who participated in dozens of Diddy's freak-offs with both Cassie and Daphne Joy over the course of 8 years. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Thanks for having me, man.
Well, we have a lot to talk about, but right now, like about an hour ago, the verdict is actually in.
Yeah, verdict's in.
Diddy was acquitted of RICO and sex trafficking charges and found guilty of 2 lesser charges of transportation of Cassie and Daphne Joy for prostitution. This is seen as a victory for Diddy because all the serious charges he's been cleared of.
Yeah.
Now, the judge still has to decide if he's going to be released before the sentencing, if he's going to get a bond, which I think he should. But at this point, he's still in jail, and we'll see what happens the next day or so. So, how do you feel as someone that was involved in dozens of freak-offs and got to know Diddy over the years? How do you think this verdict played out?
I feel like it played out like it was supposed to. I can only account for my point of view, but from what I saw willing participation. I didn't see like any of the rampant drug use and stuff that they were describing, prosecution was describing. So I think that given the situation and what really happened, I feel like justice was served, I think.
And it's crazy because we watched 3 different escorts say the same thing. Nobody was forced. Everybody was willing. Motherfuckers got paid. And it was all coming from Cassie. But everybody continued to blame Diddy.
He was kind of more so being looked down upon for his sexual proclivities that weren't anything, in my view, an extreme. Voyeurism is what it is, and I think that it was kind of blown out of proportion. So I'm glad that he's getting what I view as like his, due justice.
Well, yeah, I mean, the prosecution, by putting Cassie and Daphne on the stand, try to paint a picture that Diddy was forcing them into these acts. He was controlling them by both force and finances.
Right.
You know, whether it's the beating of Cassie or saying that you're going to lose your record deal or I'm not going to pay Daphne Joy's rent or whatever else. They try to paint it as that for the sex trafficking, possibly even the RICO, but ultimately those were thrown out. And you've always maintained that both girls, when you guys had your freak-offs, were both into it. There was no level of, I don't want to do this, he's forcing me to do it. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, his whole thing was he never made any demands. He was always like, act like I'm not in the room. What would y'all do if I wasn't here? And if we were trying to get to a certain point too quickly, he would separate us like, no, you guys go over there. So she was always the one in control. Both of them were always the one in control during these moments. He was kind of like background, you know? He kind of kept us into a certain like mindset of we want to focus like on this love hour. But for the most part, it was do what you want to do. So I don't think that he was really, you know, pressuring people or making demands against people's will, again, from my point of view. So.
Look, I've been saying this for 9 months. Every interview, every tweet, I've been saying he's going to beat the RICO, he's going to beat the sex trafficking. He might get the prostitution charge. And now it's really up to the judge. It could be time served or it could be as much as 10 years.
So I'm going to stop it right here because we've been doing this for a couple hours, just listening to the S workers tell their stories. And their story is simple. Diddy wasn't guilty of those crimes. Nobody was forced to do anything, and everybody was okay with it. Like I always say, I present you with the facts. I give you my opinion on those facts. You have the opportunity to get in the comment section and give your opinion on those facts. And that's just what it is. And if you like how I do that, hit that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all so you can get notifications every time I drop one of these videos. And if you still think Diddy's a bad guy, cut the shit. That part.